Hey YouTube, it's Adrian. Just before we get you to this video, do me a favor and head over to pageantlaunch.com. We are starting the world's first dedicated pageant review site, and I would love for you to join our launch team. All you need to do is put in your email address. It's completely free. We are looking to make a pageant industry that is safe, transparent, and fair. I know it's like that most of the time, but over the last year, it's become very evident that it's not like that all of the time. So head over to pageantlaunch.com, put in your email address, and let's get you to this. We're live now, okay? So, hey everyone, it's Adrian from the Pageant Project, and I am back with Rachel, give them a wave, Ruby, give them a wave, and our special guest, Maddy May. Maddy, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing spectacularly. Now, we'll get Maddy to introduce herself just in case the people watching don't know who she is. So, Maddy, if you assume that people may not know who you are, why don't you introduce yourself, all your pageant background, and all the other stuff.
My gosh. Okay, where to start? In the past month, I've won 2 international titles. So I'm the official ambassador for Oceania for the Miss Tourism Global City Pageant and the Miss Tourism of the Globe, I think. I can't remember. God, I'm so bad.
It's going well. Rachel's face is like, oh, you can't remember what you are.
After all of that, you don't remember. It's like PTSD. Okay. And I competed in Royal International Miss representing Australia in July, and Miss Friendship in China also in July as well. So that's 4 pageants in the past 3 months.
You've actually spent, I mean, in the last 3 months, how much time have you spent in Australia?
4 weeks.
You've spent more time out of Australia than in Australia.
Yeah.
Have you grown a new appreciation for Australia since being outside Australia so much?
Yeah, I just wanted to come home. Like, after being in China for a month, I was like, all right, I just want some normal food. Like a steak would be really good right now. Like, just basics, things that you take for granted because you have it every day. And then all of a sudden, it's just gone.
Yeah.
Gone. It's just gone. And if you do what I did and forget all your earrings, then you're screwed.
You forgot them or you lost them?
I forgot them at home in Australia.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Of course. Rachel went overseas and had her boots stolen.
Oh, yes, I did.
I remember.
Okay. Well, that's Maddy May, as much as she can remember anyway, despite having PTSD from the trauma of all those pageants in such a compressed time. Let us squiddle along to Miss Ruby, Miss AU Intel 2019, who's in front of a funky new backdrop today. So why don't you catch us up with what's been going on, including this backdrop? It's not the blue one with the nipples anymore.
Oh, yeah, we don't want the blue nipples anymore. Okay, so this backdrop first off is from Kmart. It's a faux reindeer rug. You can pick it up today. Sponsorship? No.
Commercial.
But yeah, my life has been pretty crazy at the moment. I've had many photo shoots. I think I had 3 girls this week. Very tired. And I have a bunch of girls messaging me in regards to the National Australian Miss program and having photo shoots while I'm there. And I'm like, okay, I'll have to see around the schedule. But pretty much it's just been crazy on the photography end and obviously crazy with helping Mum be the best she can be for the actual pageant.
How's your update us with how your mum's feeling about it? I mean, it's her first pageant.
She's good. She had a pair of heels come in yesterday, but they're very uncomfortable, so she sent them back. So she's just going to wear ones that she knows she can walk in, which is the best thing to do. But yeah, we're just currently teaching her all about posing and walking, and she's getting there. She's good.
How's her walk?
Yes, it's cute. She's so cute. She's just like she's going to be very entertaining to watch.
I don't know if that's a strong endorsement, but it sounds like it's going to be entertaining.
Yeah. Well, you'll have a smile on your face. Like, you won't be able to not smile at her.
All right. I was going to say, so Maddy has PTSD, can't remember. Ruby is super busy. And I don't think Rachel's going to make it any better. So why don't we go ahead? I was going to say Rachel, but if it's gone from Maddy having PTSD to Ruby being super tired, I hardly think it's going to go to Rachel and say, yeah, I've got lots of energy, because she's still, second week of your work, right?
Yeah, second week of the new job.
You look like you have PTSD now.
Yes. Hey?
You look like you have PTSD as well.
Oh, geez.
All three of you look like you have PTSD.
Oh, well, I was out at the Western Suburbs office today, so it was pretty far from my place. I was there yesterday and today, and it was really nice. I learned a lot of great new things and met some really nice new people. But yeah, like, happy to be going back to my normal, CBD office tomorrow, so that'll be nice. Yeah.
Well, did you see the forecast for tomorrow, Rachel?
No.
36 degrees. And that ain't Fahrenheit. That ain't Fahrenheit. That's so Celsius.
Oh, because I'm so pale.
You won't be for much longer.
I won't be pale umbrella.
Do you tan at all?
Do I what?
Do you tan?
Do I tan? Like fake tan? Yes.
No. I mean, do you?
That doesn't happen.
Okay, all right. So you're either going to
freckles.
You're going to stay pale, or you're going to go really, really red and just burn up.
Yeah, I think I can speak for both of us when I say we burn like bacon.
Yes. Well, yeah. Unfortunately, I don't lose bacon when I burn, but
oddly hungry. I kind of want to put both of you in the sun now, covered in Crisco, and just.
I wonder who would burn first. Me or Ruby?
Wow, jeez.
Let's do this.
Well, normally you'd go with the redhead, but I mean, Rach, I think you'd give her a run for her money.
I'm pretty white. I was born as a redhead, so I'm part of the redhead club.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Maddy, do you tan at all?
Yeah, I go really dark. Like, I'm olive skinned.
All right, so you and me will tan very nicely.
Yeah, I'm just pasty at the moment because I've been busy, or I would be a lot darker.
All right, so 2 of us tan and 2 of us burn. Which 2 are 2, we'll never know. Okay, so what have I been up to this week? This week, in terms of pageantry stuff, I have done... God, I can't remember now. Either I have PTSD too. This is going to be the theme for this week. I had an interview. Actually, Miss Global is coming up. There's a couple of international pageants coming up. Global is coming up. Intercontinental is coming up as well. For Australian pageantry, Michaela Rose Fowler was just announced as Global. And Hannah Swart, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Ruby might know. But she's just been announced as Miss Intercontinental. I got to remember, Miss Intercontinental Australia. Right. And I think that's in December. And Global is in January in Mexico. So I think both of those are coming up very, very soon. But I interviewed Miss Global Wales. And I interviewed one of the Latina girls, BSA Latina girls, who's under Maria Torres' directorship, which Ruby will know as well.
I love the BSA Latina girls.
I just can't say it. Can you say, Ruby? How is your pronunciation? Can you say that?
I don't know if it's right, but I say BSA Latina.
Yeah, that's about what I've got as well. And I've got like 7 or 8 interviews lined up already after this week. So there's a lot happening. And as we speak, Taylor Curry, who's Miss Grand Australia, is over in Venezuela. She won the swimsuit round. So she's obviously doing pretty well. And all those what do you call it, like the pageant prediction sites? You know what I'm talking about? The hot pick sites. I don't know who runs those. Like, they have nothing else to do. But a few of them have picked Taylor as one of the potential winners. So rooting for her.
Good.
Even though, speaking of the global girls from the UK, they actually were originally in Grand, but they pulled out because of the Venezuelan situation. But Taylor looks like everything is proceeding smoothly, which is a great thing, because holding Grand in Venezuela was always going to be, the security was going to be an issue. So I'm glad to see they're all safe and having a good time. So, now Ruby mentioned that there's a national Australian Miss program coming up. So do any of you have any pageant plans? I guess we're almost at the end of 2019. Does anyone have any pageant plans from now until the end of the year?
I have a few appearances at a few little events, but that's about it.
Okay, well, why don't you clue us in with what's going to be happening between now and the end of the year? We'll leave 2020 for 2020, but Maddy, why don't you start us off with what you've got lined up? It doesn't even just have to be in pageantry, just in general life for the rest of this year.
My God, in general life, I don't even know. Like, I'm just taking it day by day, you know? I just figure out what I'm doing. I'm really disorganized, you know, that's pretty normal. Actually, the day that I was supposed to have the interview with Adrian, the first one, like months ago, I got the date wrong. So I thought it was like a Wednesday, but it was actually a Saturday. And then somebody else messaged him. So that's pretty normal of me to just be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to take it 1 week at a time. But on the other hand, I'm competing in Miss Auto Delegates and Miss World. I just got through the States for that. And I'm just kind of doing some Australian ones and seeing how I go with that for the end of the year.
You know,
Nice.
I completely forgot about Miss World. That's what my life has been like. I completely forgot that Miss World Australia was happening. So yeah, and
PTSD.
No, just got a lot going on. Rachel obviously is also, as we discussed last week, is through to States after her spectacular win in typical Rachel style, which will forever be etched in my memory.
I love it though. I love it.
I've been taking little clips from my interviews and turning them not into memes, but into GIFs, animated GIFs. And I feel like I need to turn Rachel's winning moment into a GIF. Because
a GIF.
that would you've got to compress it into a very short time. So you might have to give some thought as to exactly what you're going to have happening in your GIF. But I want to go back to Maddy talking about auto. I don't quite know how to pronounce this. The French in me would say it's auto délégance, but because it's Australian, it's auto délégance. What can you clue us into more about that pageant? Because I haven't heard much about it. I know you're in it. I've seen a few familiar faces. I think like Krista. I saw. I think Maddy. Who's the other Maddy? The Continent's Maddy. Maddy Croft. I think. Yeah, but Maddy, why don't you clue us in with what's happening with that pageant?
Well, for me, it's just like extra stage time just to kind of grow my career. But it's essentially like mixing fashion with pageantry. And then you've got like a supercar element, and I get to do photo shoots on private jets and with really expensive cars. So it's just good practice. And then if I win 10K. So at the end of the day, it's a win-win situation for me right now.
That'll be a nice little Christmas present.
It would for this little Jew.
So what's you'll stretch it out to make it 20K. So what are the? I don't know if it's a typical pageant or not because I haven't heard anything about it. So does it have the usual sections or is it completely different?
I honestly have no idea. Like they haven't given out the information, but as far as I know, it's kind of like a runway aspect where you're wearing other people's clothes and other designers' things, and then I think you've just got an evening gown section, but other than that, photo shoots and photo shoots and photo shoots.
Right. Okay. Because I've seen.
But it's okay because there's private jets.
Yeah, because I've seen a load of photos coming out. So are you being judged on them? Are you getting points for them? Like how does that work?
Not that I know of. They're just going into Star Central magazine. So the next cover will be all the girls that were in auto delegates with like cars and Ferraris and stuff. It'd be cool. And the jet.
The jet. How was the jet?
There was 2 actually.
2 jets, because one's not
There
enough.
was 2 jets. Nah. And then there'll be another photo shoot on the day of the pageant, which is the 9th, I think, of December. So from there, then we'll see what happens. But there'll be more jets, more cars. Apparently last year there was 200 supercars. So we'll see.
Where are these cars coming from?
So Sydney Motoring Group, it's run by a gentleman, and he gets all these people together and gets the cars together.
Right, that makes sense, because I'm just like, are you just going outside and finding 200 sports cars? Because I mean, that's not easy to do. So that makes sense in the private jet. Do you know roughly how many girls are in Auto d'Elegance?
I have no idea, because like I went there for one of the photo shoots, and I think only half the girls that were competing were there. So
okay, no. All right. Well, that's a different pageant then. Ruby, did you want to fill us in? I don't know if you or Rachel probably are more in the know about National Miss, but why don't you fill us in with what the rest of 2019 is going to have for you?
Okay, well, first off, end of November, I get to go to New Zealand for 13 days, which I'm really excited about. And based off what my boyfriend has told me where we're going, there's going to be a lot of cool nature places. So I'm pretty much going to ditch him and bring my camera for photos. Because
wow, that's nice of you. Priorities right there.
I know. So there's a couple of trivia night events that I'm going to be going to support, and just a few like market events and just things like that. And then with NAMP,
that's why I call it NAMP. That's the only way I
can remember the way that it goes.
It's like damp, but with an N.
Yeah, so that's the 9th and the 10th. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's of November though, right?
Yeah.
Right, okay. So it's the 2 days before Remembrance Day, 11th of the 11th, and then the Auto d'Elegance sounds like it's on 9th December. All right. Ruby or Rachel, do either of you have more details about NAMP aside from when it's being held? Because Rachel's got to hand over her crown, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, so...
Well, you're the reigning title holders, so...
Yeah, I would suppose so. Yeah, so I'm Miss Australia Regency International as well as Miss Silk Road Australia. So got 2 titles at once. And yeah, I guess I'll be handing over my Regency title to whoever wins the Miss section.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any other plans, Rach? I mean, you mentioned travel last week.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
Well, I was actually looking at flights and things like that as I was sitting here waiting for my computer to start. Yeah, so I'm thinking of going to Japan, something that I really wanted to do for ages. Maddy knows that. I've been pestering her about it for a while. Yeah, thinking about doing that, and yeah, just working and trying to get my head around being in a full-time sort of position and not having to study anymore, which is amazing. And yeah, just spending time with my friends and my fam and living my best life.
So how's that doctorate looking for you?
Don't think so.
You actually like having a job and having money rather than going and being a broke student?
True. Yes, so true. However, in my job, I have to write little things about like what people do for their job and everything. So it's kind of like writing essays every day. So I don't mind it. It's all right.
That would be my nightmare.
I was going to say.
Sounds great, actually.
Yeah, it does. It's actually really fun. I like it.
Writing essays every day, that's definitely not me.
Nerd life.
I come to both of you when I need an essay. So at the end of the day,
well,
I feel like it's you guys more than it is me.
Well, I'm just kind of the middleman. Like, I mean, you came to me, but I shunted you on to Rachel. So next time you can cut out the middleman and just go straight to Rachel. Although when it comes back...
There in Starbucks having the best time of my life, writing an essay about like pageants is the best thing ever.
I know. So Ruby, this is like an application for something or other, and Maddy needed to have like an essay, a proper essay. And Maddy is not the best at writing essays, so she passed it on to me, and I said I would help, and I wrote something. And then I just thought, well, you know who would actually be a lot better at this would be Rachel. the strange thing is she actually really enjoyed it. She starts I don't know if you've ever been bombarded by Rachel when she gets excited. I'm talking about messaging wise. You know how on messaging platforms it will say something like Ruby is typing, right? Ruby is typing. The way that Rachel types, all you'd ever get to do is Ruby is typing, because by the time you written half of your first paragraph, she spammed another 3 or 4 paragraphs, and the one that you're responding to has gone north by about 5,000 meters. So then you stop that one and you start typing another one, then she spams again, and it'll just go Ruby is typing. And she went manic with this essay. She was like, oh, I'm so full of ideas, this is super fun. And I'm like, okay, better you than me.
I enjoyable as well. Writing is fun to me.
Yes.
I don't mind writing. I've written a book, but writing essays would absolutely do my head in. I mean, we talked about this last week, except we didn't quite get to this level of manic enthusiasm. But Rachel loves writing essays. It makes her life happy. Rachel, if you had to pick toast or essay writing, which one's your favorite?
Toast.
You had toast before Miss World.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, I did. I had toast before Miss World. So I was sitting in front of my mirror with Maddy next to me. I just had like this piece of toast.
We're putting on makeup and she's...
Oh, it's so cute. Oh.
Okay, so Mark, I'm just going over to the Facebook comments. Mark Skinner has written, "Who is Maddy?" Well, that is Maddy, right there. He's also asked, "How long have the girls been modelling for?" Why don't we just give a number? Maddy, what's your number? Years.
Oh my God, since I was 14, so...
Almost 10 years. All right. Ruby?
Yeah, I've been maybe for about... Well, yeah, it's more pageant, not particularly modelling, but more for like 7 to 8 years.
Rachel?
Well, actually, interestingly, my pageant anniversary is coming up on the 10th of November.
Pageanniversary.
And it will be 1 year since I started pageants. And then I started doing modelling in December of last year. So it's nearly a year for that as well.
Compared to these two, you look like a newbie. Look at these two are veterans.
Because I am. Teach me your ways.
I do.
Yeah, you do.
And Mark has also written 9th November 2019. So I'm assuming that's NAMP.
The auto one.
Yeah.
No, that's the auto one, and I got it wrong. And he sent me a message too.
Oh.
My bad.
Then they're on at the same time then, aren't they?
What do you mean?
Well, Ruby said the National Australian
the 10th
Misses.
is the finals.
Yeah. Okay.
But the 9th
there
is
we go.
stuff.
All right. So it looks like there's going to be some crossover there. Maddy, this just reminds me of when we did do the interview and you got the city wrong. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I this is just what I do. Like dyslexia 2.0. I forget everything.
2.0. Is it 2.0 or is it 0.2? But I should say that you were / Rachel's director for Silk Road, right?
Yeah.
And she loves you as her director because you take care of her, and Rachel is very needy at times.
I'm not.
Yeah, that was a squeal and a half.
I'm sorry. I got excited.
Okay, so
I don't think it was more so like taking care of her. I think in Chinese systems, it's really hard as a female, especially being in China, and then second of all being in a Chinese system, to feel appreciated and loved. And then at the same time to have all your basic necessities took off you. And then at the same time, forgetting your adapter. Hey, Rachel. So at the end of the day, it's gone completely blank. I can't hear anything. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's just being there for the person that you're sending overseas. That's what's most important.
So
yeah, and it was really good because Maddy knows what it's like to compete overseas, and she's done lots of pageants and everything. And you know, we're a similar age. Like, you're 2 years younger than me? A year younger than me, Maddy? I don't know, but yeah. So Yeah, she kind of understands where you're at, and it's really easy to relate when you're closer in age. And she understands the needs that I have as a pageant competitor. So that's good.
I think it's that, but it's also like I'm a youth worker by trade, so that's kind of my background. So I just like to help people. That's just who I am.
Let's we've been on slightly random tangents, but I do want to dig in on this one, because as I was saying to Maddy the other day when we met up, one of the things that and this goes back to way back, probably 2 or 3 months ago, before I started on my whole sort of UK and US bent. And when we did our first podcast together, so the three of you together with Sarah Copeland, and I asked what did we think was wrong with Australian pageantry in terms of what we would like to see changed. And I think all of us have kind of agreed since then that one of the things that is really important is a director. Like, the director makes the pageant. I mean, Ruby's talked about this, with her director Ferial, particularly here. If the director is great, the girls are going to have a great time. If the director is not great, the girls are not going to have a great time. And I think that's only magnified when you send them overseas, because they're out of Australia, and someplace like China is not exactly, if it's not, well, I'm not going to say it's tourist unfriendly, but it's certainly a place where you'd want to have everything lined up. So Maddy, just for you, and I'll circle around to Rachel and Ruby afterwards, but what do you think are the most important qualities that a pageant director should have?
I would say, first of all, realizing that you're not perfect. And when you realize that you're not perfect, you realize that the person that you're sending overseas isn't going to be perfect as well. They're going to forget their earrings. They're going to forget their adapter. They're going to forget everything. But it's being able to empathize with those things and being able to understand that, they may miss their flight, and you just have to be there to support them on the phone at midnight.
Yeah, me.
This is why I was saying Rachel is needy. I didn't know she was that bad. Rachel, what happened to you? How could you be such a spectacular disaster?
Now, that wasn't my fault. I did forget my adapter. That
was not her fault.
But because I was flying, one of those dodgy China airlines.
They lost your luggage,
so
right?
So they were late, and then I missed my connecting flight, and then I was calling Maddy, freaking out, and she's like, "Yeah, help you and everything." So she helped me. It's great.
Yeah, but first of all, being able to realize that, people are going to make mistakes. And I mean, if you're in that position, you're going to make the same mistakes too, let's be honest. Second of all, being able to empathize and understand that pageants are just an absolute melting pot of culture and stress, pretty much.
Especially international ones.
Yeah, they're crazy. And the amount of stress, the amount of pressure, the amount of sleep that you need is crazy because you're so stressed. So just being able to understand and help people put it day by day. But I think most importantly is being able to have girls that you rely on, girls that you trust, and have a good team of people that you can communicate with, but that you've trained beforehand, so you can feel confident that you don't need to sit there and tell them how to do every single thing every single day. And that's kind of how I felt with Rachel is, we did a coaching session. I gave you every single thing you needed to do. When you went overseas, we organized choreography, and then you could just go over there and do it for yourself. You didn't need me. And
you've got Darian going overseas as well, don't you? Darian Lenton. And she's similar to Rachel, is very... I mean, she's a smart girl. She doesn't need to have her hand held. And I'm sure she's very open to... Yeah, so I guess it goes both ways. You've got to find a good director, but the directors want to find girls, I'm sure, who don't need their hand held every step of the way and going to use some degree of common sense. Do you...
It depends on the person, because, I mean, I know some directors want to hold your hand every step of the way and feel like they really had a piece of what you're doing and really did everything. Very much like, RIM. They really wanted to hold your hand through it and tell you how to do everything, what to wear, how to make yourself look the best that you can possibly look, versus my directorship, which is, it's your title, do with it what you want. I'm here for advice. Yep. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just here to help you.
Yep, absolutely.
And I think by doing it that way, the delegate has more control over what they're doing, but therefore they're more passionate and more likely to do better in that situation because they want to do it for themselves, not for you or the pressure that you've put them under.
Ruby, what about yourself? Because you said in previous, I think it was back 3 or 4 episodes, that you want to help Farrell in terms of running the Australia International pageant. So from your perspective, what are the qualities or some of the qualities that a good director has to have on top of what Maddy has said?
Yeah, well, Maddy pretty much nailed it on the head. But the thing for me that's huge is honesty. You'll enter a lot of systems and they'll say, oh, and especially when like entry fee, you apply and it's like, oh, that's only that. And then you enter and you get your sash and you're also so excited and then like, oh, and you also have to pay this on top of it. It's like, well, if I had known that in advance, I may have not entered it. So I think financially knowing everything you need to know, like the costings and where the money's going to and the scheduling and everything. I think honesty is a huge thing. And another thing that I really stick by is rules. Going by the rule book. There's many directors out there who will kind of change the rules to suit people. And I think if rules are put in place, you stick by them. It's as simple as that. So those are the 2 major things for me.
Yeah. That whole rules situation has come up quite badly this year in some of the pageants that I know of. That's the reason that some of the girls have had such a big issue, is that they've competed with what the official rules are, and then those rules have been changed halfway through, ostensibly for who knows what, but in reality it really looked like it was designed to favor a particular girl. So I'll give you the example, in prelims or day 1, let's say certain practices are supposed to count, and then if the girl who went on to win didn't do so well, they said, oh, we're not counting those scores anymore. If you do things like that in the middle of a pageant, your contestants are just going to lose faith completely, as well they should. It's just like competing on quicksand. You never know. But absolutely. Rachel, I will come across to you. But Maddy, this question's probably directed mainly to you, because I know with RIM, for example, you weren't able to post bikini photos. But Mark has asked, I would like to know, and remember not to throw anyone under the bus because we're live and we can't save you if you put your foot in your mouth. But I will say, I would like to know why the pageant directors are becoming a lot more controlling on what the girls can shoot whilst they are competing. And just before Maddy enters, I will say that's probably, I don't think you can say that's blanket statement true. There are certainly directors from my experience that have done that. And do I agree with it or not? My opinion is kind of, it's up to them. It's their system. But I do know that some others are definitely not like that. But I'll let Maddy take that one. So why the pageant directors become a lot more controlling?
I think it depends on who you're working with. Each director has a different vision for their system, where they want the vision to go and how they want it to look. Some directors want a conservative girl. Some directors want a girl that can go out and do their own thing and feel confident in that, like I was with Rach. I'm very confident in her. She's more than capable of figuring it out for herself. If she wants to post a bikini picture, she can. There are other systems that are more conservative. They do it for that reason, because when you go overseas, either they know that you'll get downgraded, or on the opposite end of the spectrum, it's just not their vision for their system. And at the end of the day, you're putting your face to a system as a director and joining the two. And it just depends on how you want to look, whether you and your system is important to you as your face, and that's what's important, or the girls and their experience and whether they enjoy it or not. It depends on how you want to do it and how much marketing you want to put towards you as a person as opposed to the system.
Yep, absolutely. Let's circle up to Toast Girl. So Toast Girl, what in your opinion are the qualities of a good director, in addition to what Maddy and Ruby have already spoken?
I think this is just generally a blanket statement for anybody, I guess. Like, I think a really big level of compassion, because pageants are stressful, especially if you're new and you have no idea what's going on the entire time. And especially if you're competing overseas for the first time or you haven't done it that much, it can be quite, stressful and a little bit scary, and you don't really know what to expect. You don't know anybody, and you kind of feel a bit like a fish out of water at some points, especially if you're in a country like China, and you haven't done a lot of traveling in Asia, which was me.
Yeah.
So it was a really good thing that Maddy was there. She was always on the end of the phone. Like I could just WhatsApp her at any time and I knew that she would help me. So I knew that, and because, she's my friend, obviously, so she would be there for me anyway. But yeah, so I think that compassion is a really big one. But I think also having experience as a pageant competitor as well will really go a long way, because you would understand where the person's perspective is coming from. And that's really important. In understanding their experiences. But I think that's just with anything. It comes with a level of insight and understanding that you need to kind of live for yourself to really understand what's happening to the other person.
Yeah, so
Definitely.
if we take that and just going off that, let's just switch it around. And in terms of what sort of girls would directors like to work with? Because Maddy's already alluded to this before in terms of the girls that would make a director's life easier. So what are some of the things that you guys think contestants, not directors, but the contestants or the competitors, the girls, what are some of the things that the girls should do in order to make their directors' lives easier? Because obviously it's not all to blame on the director. Sometimes the girls do things and they really shouldn't be doing it. So I'll go to Rach first on this one. But Rach, from you've come out to your pageantiversary. What are some of the things that you think, what are some of the behaviors or etiquette that you've seen that you think are really important, and maybe some of the ones that you've seen maybe the girls shouldn't really have done?
I think listening is a really big one, and being willing to learn as well, because I think a lot of people step into things in life and they go, oh yeah, it looks easy, I can do that. But there are lots of little nuances and things that you need to learn when you first start in anything, whether it's pageants or dancing or a new job or anything like that. There's all these little nuances and bits of, culture that come along with each thing that you start that's new. So it's really important to, ask questions about that. What's appropriate? What should I be doing? What should I be wearing? What should I be saying and also not saying? And all that type of thing. Yeah. I think that's a pretty good answer. What do you reckon?
Well, I think sometimes what you don't say is more important than what you do say, just from what I've seen and where you say it. But I think that's a great start, and you've got an interesting experience, because I think you've had a very compressed experience in 1 year. You've probably done a lot more than what most pageant competitors would do in their first year.
Yes.
Ruby, what do you think in terms of pageant etiquette? What the girls can do to help their directors out?
The biggest thing for me is commitment, and that comes on both ends of the scale, director or contestant. I think if you are going to be in a system and you enjoy what they're doing, then at the end of the day, if you win, then you are kind of obligated to be there and help out and be there for the contestants that are coming up. So if you go overseas and then you just kind of drop off the face of the earth, so they're going to really care anymore, then it's something to me that I don't really like. I think for me, if I'm committed to something, I'm there from when I was crowned to the end, and I'm there to be there as the biggest support I can.
I think we've kind of touched on this peripherally in the previous episodes about, queens who win and then don't do anything. That's not it. Is there a pageant term for queens who do that, win a title and then don't do anything?
I don't know about pageant terms, but...
Well, yeah, no, I don't want other terms because, I can think of a few terms, but I won't say them here. But I was just thinking, is there a pageant term for queens that win and then don't do anything? Because it does happen. And I think it's one of the really sad things. And again, Ruby has talked about this before, is that you're kind of stealing the title from someone else who maybe doesn't have the social media following you did, or didn't have the money to have as nice of a wardrobe as you did. You beat her, but she would have been the much better role model because she was willing to do the work. And as I've heard time and time again, especially from the overseas girls, they view winning the title as a job. You're winning a job for a year, and they take it that seriously. And Rachel has also said that she thinks it's important that the queen should have a plan for the year if she was to win. And I've seen, I agree with both of those. But Maddy, in terms of what you think are some good etiquette tips for pageant girls to do and not to do, because you've director and competitors, you got it from both sides. So what do you think?
I think first of all, being happy and being open every day, waking up every day, having a smile, and just being someone that people want to be around and being positive, and making sure that you surround yourself around those positive people. Because if you go and do a pageant and you hang around that negative crowd, because there's always a positive crowd of people that are really happy to be there, really excited, and a more negative crowd that want to kind of create drama and trouble. If you hang around the negative crowd, you're going to downgrade yourself and potentially not win the pageant, because you're not hanging around the right people that are going to push you in the direction that you need to go in. So it's not just important how you react and who you are and, you know, what you've been doing. It's also hanging out with the right people. As silly as it sounds, I mean, you don't want to hang around with people who are going to make you look bad. And yeah, that kind of covers what you do and don't do in one question, I guess.
Yeah. No, that makes complete sense to me. Maddy, did you just have a plane fly over you?
That was me.
Oh, that was Ruby.
Yeah.
I was going
I
like...
live next to the airport. And
That's why I thought it was you.
Yeah.
That was a sound, by the sounds of that, was a really low-flying military plane. That plane had some grunt, Ruby.
Yeah, well, we have a little aeroplane base, and it's just kind of the next street, so they do kind of come down quite low.
Oh, don't want to stand too tall. You might get your head knocked off. I do want to ask one more thing, since we've sort of taken this tangent. And I'm going to ask each and one of you, I don't know who will go first. Maybe one of you can volunteer. It's normally Rach. If no one volunteers, I'm going to pick Rachel first, because that's what she's here for, to take the bullet. But if you have, let's say you're in the middle of a pageant and you're not having a great time. Let's say you're having an absolutely horrible time. What you were promised wasn't happening. The director is useless. The girls are being mean. Everyone's just kind of given up. And you don't want to just come home and not do anything about it. You want to say something so that other girls won't have to repeat the same experience. What should you do in that situation? Because that's always fascinated me, because I've spoken to some girls that have had negative experiences and they've just voiced it confidentially to me. Some of them have taken, to give you an idea, legal action behind the scenes. We've had lawyers involved, security cameras involved. Normally they haven't gone public about it. I did just see recently an article about I believe it was Miss Earth last year, and there were accusations that a major sponsor was sexually harassing the girls, and two of the girls, contestants, went public and named and shamed them in the newspaper, and it blew up to a really big thing. And he had to sort of, I don't know actually what's happened to that, but in between like doing that, naming and shaming, and doing absolutely nothing, what advice would you give to a contestant who's having a really bad time of it and wants to make sure that it doesn't happen to anyone else? Does anyone want to go first on this, or do I just go to Toast Girl first?
Whatever makes you happy.
Toast Girl, we go to you.
Okay. Look, I think that with any sort of events or anything that you go to, lots of different people go to those types of things, and people aren't blind. They see things that happen, and they hear things as well. Like if in pageantry, because it's so small, if you think things don't get around, they do, trust me. So yeah, I don't know, with such a small community, I don't think that I would personally ever go out and make public statements about, you know, this person did this to me or this person did that. You know, if you talk to your friends about it and say, hey, you know, this is kind of what happened to me, you know, I feel pretty bad about it, what do you reckon, type of thing. You know, if they, you know, talk to other people, which, you know, people talk about stuff, it's just a natural thing, it will get around naturally. So I don't ever really think that if nothing illegal has been done and no one's, you know, had a really bad time or been hospitalized or anything like that, I don't think there's any real reason to do that, because, you know, karma comes around and people hear about things anyway. So there's not really many cases where you need to do anything really.
I should clarify that, I mean, I was just reading about this morning. What happened in this situation was that somehow this sponsor got a hold of the girls' personal numbers and kept ringing them to the point where they had to block him. And then he actually allegedly asked for sexual favors in return for preferential placing at the pageant. When the girls went to the director said that he would be banned from the pageant, and he wasn't. He turned up to subsequent appearances and indeed the actual event itself. So in this case, I guess, whether you call it illegal or not, that's the sort of the level of what I'm talking about. It really can go that bad. And if that's not illegal, that's really just one step underneath. And I think that's why two of them went to the paper. One of them had to name and shame first, and then a few of the other girls came forward and confirmed it. But, you know, when something like that happens, I just don't think that staying absolutely quiet is right, because that behavior could repeat itself.
Yeah, it depends on the level, I guess, of what it is. Like if it's something like sexual harassment and awful things like that, then, you know, it's harassment. That's, you know, illegal. Like if you were to do that in the workplace, you'd be pulled in and probably lose your job. So, I reckon that for sure, if something like that happens and your safety or your health or anything really important like that is threatened, then definitely you do have ways to have recourse for that.
Yeah. And I think what the girls did in terms of going to their director first was probably the right call. They went to they're called team managers. The team managers laughed it off. I think one of them said, "Don't cry about it," like something completely inappropriate. They then escalated to the director, who said that she would remove the sponsor, and then didn't do that. So then they went public. But I was shocked to hear that, because that's a very large pageant. Ruby, what about yourself in terms of if something of that level happened to yourself, God forbid it ever does, but what would you do? What action would you take?
Well, I think the biggest thing is I don't think it needs to be something that needs to be addressed through social media, because that never ends well. Let's be honest. You have people like agreeing and disagreeing, and it's just crazy. Yep. So the biggest thing for me, if girls are interested in that particular system and they want to ask me about it, then I'll be straight up with them, say this happened. If you want to do it, be aware of it, but this is what happened. And I think if it is something like really, really bad, then I think that does need to be addressed publicly, but it doesn't need to be through social media. I think that needs to be taken into a more kind of private hand to deal with. I don't think it needs to be displayed everywhere.
Maddy, what about yourself?
Well, first of all, I don't think it's good to put things all over social media and make it public. I've been a part of pageants where there have been lawsuits, and I've been a part of pageants where very similar sexual things have been said actually very recently, to myself actually. And I personally just messaged the international director and sent her the messages and just made her aware of it. So I don't think it's right to do it publicly, but just to send it off to someone and say, hey, look, this is what's going on in your system. Be aware of this. But other than that, I think at the end of the day, you're in a very public place and people should be on their best behavior, but it's bad. But a lot of sponsors tend to do this and push their luck because they're funding the pageant, which is a shame.
Yeah. Look, as I said, I mean, these are all allegations, and so I don't know if anything has been proven yet. I don't know whether it was taken to court, but it was published in a newspaper, so online. I don't know if it was in print, but certainly it was made public. And we all know that pageants aren't perfect, and that sometimes you're going to have a bad experience. I just think it's really important that people out there know that they don't go in there naively, and they have some idea as to maybe who they should go to. I mean, would you guys agree that if you're having a bad time, the first place to go to is the director? Would that be the logical first step?
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
And then I
Definitely.
guess, so then the only question is, if the director is not receptive, who do you go to then? Who would you go to then if the director is not receptive?
It depends on the situation.
On the system as well, as to whether people are enjoying the system or not as well.
Yeah, but I think after the director, it's not something that they take into their hands and really, it does depend on the situation. Like if it's something that's only small, then it's like just kind of deal with it. But if it's something major, like you said, then I think the contestants who are entering for the next years to come, they do need to be aware, and it's up to them if they want to take the next step and do it, or if they don't.
Definitely.
I will say that I know a lot of the girls have, when there have been messages that have been inappropriate, that they have screenshotted them to retain them as proof. And I do think that is a good idea, because outside of who you approach, if you are going to ever accuse someone of something so serious as sexual harassment, you're going to want to have some very concrete proof. Otherwise, it becomes he said, she said. So I think that keep your emails, and you can set your email to automatically do that. Just keep the paper trail, and if there are messages that make you uncomfortable, screenshot them, so that, because otherwise they can go in and delete them afterwards and say that you never did that.
Yeah. And in the meantime, also, if there's something going on and someone's trying to bait you into saying things on social media, just don't post the thing on social media and don't write the messages to the people, because they will screenshot them and they can edit them and doctor them and whatever else they want to do. So, yeah, just be very careful what you write. Even in an email, anything that's written down can always be turned around and used against you. So,
yes.
Definitely.
Always be diplomatic.
Yeah.
Ruby's mum has said, so true, Maddy. There are always positive and negative people everywhere in life, so scope out the positive girls for sure. Just going off what Rachel said, there were two things that pop into mind. Over in the UK, they just had Miss Teen Great Britain. And someone, I don't know who, I'm not saying it, I don't know who, live streamed part of it. And whilst they were live streaming it, either her or someone right next to her was making fun of the contestant that was being filmed, and then the contestant heard it. So I just want to bring that to mind so that you are aware. And this could have been the audience. It may not have been a pageant girl, but this is the level to which you need to monitor what you are saying. Because, I mean, to me, it's common sense. But what I'm realizing is that common sense ain't that common sometimes.
Isn't so common.
No.
So you go, oh, I'm just saying this and no one hears me. Yeah, but if someone's live streaming, they're going to pick up on it. There was another girl who just followed me on Instagram, and I was looking at a story she posted, and she was watching the live stream back, and one of the people, she was in bikini section, and she was very proud of what she had done with her body and transformed it. She didn't think it was perfect, but she was very proud. You guys would understand. You work hard on something, whether it's your body or something else, you're proud of it. And then one of some random person in the comment wrote, oh, who's a little piggy? Now that absolutely destroyed her to the point where she started bawling. And then she was that close to not competing in the rest of the pageant because some random troll on the internet had just decided to say she like little piggy. And I've like the photo, it's not even close to that. But just that's, I don't know if there's anything you can do about that, because that was just a member of the public. But if you're in pageantry and you care about the welfare of your sash sisters, just keep an eye out for that. And I think if anyone you know is doing that, tell them to stop.
But pageants is about self-confidence and uplifting other people around you as well. So clearly that person shouldn't be in the industry.
Yeah, we've talked about this, and I talked about it with Maria, who's the director of Galaxy, and she monitors a lot who comes to. She basically, I think, I don't know, Ruby might be able to tell me, but she tells apparently the audience that there are certain etiquette rules, and I know that some of the pageants have banned live streaming now. Because of those kind of incidents, they've just completely banned live streaming. But you see, that would be a shame if you are supporting someone who's overseas and you can't get there in person, and then you can't see it just because the 1% decides to be stupid. That's a shame as well. So I don't think the person who made that comment was part of the pageant industry. I think they were just a random person on the internet, and you guys know what the internet is like. I mean,
yeah.
Just a completely random question, but on a daily or weekly basis, how many weird or just completely inappropriate comments or messages do you guys get? Let's say on a weekly kind of basis. I'm going to start with Ruby.
Okay, I don't really get that many things, but the biggest thing for me is that if someone's going to say something about me, they don't know who I am. Like, you can't go off what people are saying about you and be like, oh my God, I can't believe that person said that, because they don't know who you are. And does it really matter what they say about you? Let's be honest. You're happy with yourself. That's the most important thing. But for me, like, I get like maybe an inappropriate comment maybe twice a month, which is good.
That's really on the low side of it, I think, which is great. I'm happy for you. But I started with you because I got the feeling that you might be on the low spectrum. I'm going to go to Rach next. Rach, where do you figure into this, like on a weekly basis?
I'll get the, there's people who comment on my photos on Instagram. Mostly it's Instagram. And they're a little bit like awkward to reply to, or I just don't reply to them. But a lot of the weird stuff comes in my, the section of your DMs that if they're not like friends with you, it goes to that second.
Message requests.
Like weird photos and that's the one, message request. Weird photos and funny messages and just things like that. It's usually from men, sorry, but it is.
Well, that's not going to surprise anyone. I mean, let's be honest right here.
I feel bad saying it, but it's true. Like,
exactly.
It's usually from guys, like, And
Maddy, you've been kind of smirking this whole time. So on a weekly...
I'm just thinking, like, I don't even know. Like, it changes. Like, sometimes I'll get one, or sometimes I'll get 5 a day, and then I'll get like on comments. And there was one particular person that was following me, and he would do it on my Instagram and my Facebook page until I decided that I've had enough and I was going to get rid of him. But I had him and 3 others that were posting on every single photo. And then, like Rachel, I get the same in my message requests as well. So it's not fun. I don't know. I don't understand.
What it comes down to is don't be a dick. That's the end. Just don't be a dick.
I don't understand why men think that it's attractive to do that, though.
Well, can I say I don't understand either. I really don't. But the reason I brought it up is because I want people to understand, first, a couple of things. One is that they're not alone. So if you're getting inappropriate comments or you're feeling unsafe on your social, unfortunately, you are in the majority, you're not in the minority. And I just wanted to also show the extent. I mean, Ruby getting 1 or 2 a month is already, I would say, 1 or 2 too many. But you go all the way to the spectrum, like where Maddy might get 5 a day. And I do think when you live that every day, you kind of accept that as just being normal. And you go, oh, well, that's the internet. And as much as that's kind of true, I'd really like to see that change. But it's the sad fact that, unfortunately, when you put yourself out there, especially on something like Instagram, which is kind of a picture platform, if you put certain photos up there as well, the number of comments you get increases. And it is, I can't think of any situation I've ever heard from a woman where they had an inappropriate message ever from a woman. Just to, what Rachel said, it's always men. It's always random men. And it just has to stop.
From overseas, usually.
With strange usernames. But it just has to stop. Like what Ruby said about not being a dick, I absolutely understand it. And I agree with it. Just the thing is, sometimes when they're complete strangers, you don't know who they are, and you can't tell them what to do. And if you engage with them, it's just going to make it worse. So I think it's so, so important that girls watching this learn that resilience factor. And if someone is bullying you or harassing you, as much as we want that to stop, I just can't. Part of me wants to say it's just always going to happen. It's just part of life.
I once had someone post on my Instagram, so I blocked them. Then on my Facebook page, so I blocked them. Then on my Facebook, then I blocked them. Then they sent me a text message. I don't know how. Then I blocked them there. And then they sent me one on WhatsApp as well, and one on Skype. Yeah. And I was just like, I don't understand.
Okay. Like, that's levels of crazy where I'd be starting to think about bringing in the police. Honestly, I would say check your privacy settings. There's a lot, like especially in Facebook, if you don't have your privacy settings set up right, they can get your mobile number and they can get your email address And with those two, they can basically follow you everywhere in the world. So make sure your privacy settings are set up right. And just one thing, I would rather the girls watching, if you set up a Facebook page for yourself, for your pageantry and your modeling, then adding people as friends to your personal profile who you don't know from a bar of soap. I've had a lot of random friend requests, from girls, because I've done all the pageant interviews in the UK. And if I know them, if I've interviewed them, I'm happy to do that. But sometimes I'm looking at it, it's like it's a 13-year-old girl. It's a 12-year-old girl sending me a friend request. And I'm sorry, like, you might think you know me, but it just makes me feel a little bit sick on the inside. It's like, I don't really want you to be sending me that friend request. I don't want to say no to it because I feel horrible, but I do, because part of me feels like it's really inappropriate. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys at all, but it just like it's...
No, that makes a lot of sense. I understand that.
Yeah.
I also think that you're coming from a very public place versus where the people, being on show versus, your image.
Yeah.
It's a very different place.
Obviously, my image is important, but I always think image is second to who you actually are. Like my image, I like to think is a reflection of who I am. So it's not an image that I'm putting out there just to say, here's who I am. Correct. When I am someone else. But it just,
True.
Yeah, the friend requests make me very uneasy. And if you're a parent watching this and your 12-year-old, 13-year-old is sending friend requests to random people, it's unnecessary. Like, I don't see why they need to do it. They could just set up a Facebook page. Those, if they're fans, they can like the page, and there's that level of barrier between them and your daughter or your young teenager or whatever it is. It's just scary for me. Anyway, I don't quite remember how we got onto this tangent. Does anyone? It ended up being really serious.
Yeah. Was it in the comments? I don't know.
No, I think I leveraged or something, Maddy. Oh, it's about Maddy talking about directors, and I wanted to ask Maddy about what. Yeah, it went from directors to competitors, and then it took this turn. Stacey Simpson has said in the comments, probably based on the story that I was telling you guys, it needs to be reported to the authorities and let them decide if the law was broken. And Maria, as in Torres, is very vocal about social media and keeping it positive, which he absolutely is. With the law getting involved, that can be very scary. I know from having interviewed women who've been in domestic violent relationships that going to the police was it was almost the most dangerous time, because as soon as it goes to the police, the partner then knew what was going on, and for many of them that was when they feared most for their lives. So I absolutely understand that the authorities probably should get involved in some cases, but I also understand when women don't. And I'm not just talking about pageantry. I'm talking about, in terms of who I've interviewed, sexual assault, even rape. Sometimes it just feels too scary to get the authorities involved. And I can absolutely understand that. That's all I've got to say. But I don't know if you guys have anything to weigh on that. That's just from my conversations with women who've been through all sorts of horrific things.
But it's also hard to find proof as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the hardest thing of everything is that, if you were to say that you were a victim of sexual abuse, assault, rape, any of it, you need to come up with proof. And for some people, that's not possible.
And sometimes even if you do come up with proof, the other people around you will be like, oh, no, you made that up, or, oh, that person would never do that. So then you're too scared to say anything at all because you get shunned basically into silence.
Exactly. Yeah. And these are very real. I've heard stories, I shouldn't even say them stories, but I've heard accounts of where that's really happened. The police ridicule you, or your so-called friends ridicule you and say, oh, so-and-so would never have done that, or you're exaggerating. Oh, no, he's doing it because, that's the one that really annoyed me today. He's doing it because he likes you. That's the one.
Gosh, no.
I don't know if you guys have ever heard that one, but that is the worst excuse on the face of the earth for a guy to do anything to a girl, and the excuse is, oh, he's doing it because he likes you.
I think as a female, we've all heard that one, countless amounts of times.
But isn't it just disgusting? It's just, it's so many levels of wrong.
But all through your childhood, you hear it always.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
And it does start, actually, I was going to say it does start super young. as in you're told it from when you're really young. Can any of you remember the first time that you heard roughly that, like, oh, he's just doing that because he likes you?
Probably in year 4 in primary school. And it was like, I was like, no.
So that's around the age of 10.
He's being a dick.
Yeah, that's around the age of 9 or 10.
Yeah, I'd say like kindergarten, year 1, where you're just hitting blocks at each other, and they're like, no, they're just doing that because they like you. Seriously.
Yeah.
Wow.
I can't think of any specific time either. I think it's just something that you hear and then you don't understand it until you're older. You just go, oh, okay.
But you also become immune to it. Like you don't realize that it's happening at the same time. So, yeah.
Because when you're developing, you don't have the filter, which is why advertising works so well on kids and why it has to be regulated. Because when someone tells you, who's in a position of authority, like a parent or a teacher, they tell you he's doing it because he likes you, you accept that as truth. You don't have the ability to question it, which is why it's so poisonous later on when you're 20 or 30 and you're in an abusive relationship and you're rationalizing it was because he likes me, he's doing that to me. It's like, no. Like, he's doing that because, as Ruby so eloquently put, he's a dick. Ruby's getting into it this week.
Most people, guys.
I don't know if it's about most. This is the thing I've been battling with is also this week. It's like 50%. Is the world mainly full of good people or mainly not? Like, I go back and forth. Like sometimes when I think of all the good, like the number of times bad things happen. But if you take into the scope, like how many things are happening in the entire world, then you go, oh, wow, people are actually pretty good. And then sometimes when you're driving through peak hour traffic in Sydney, and you start thinking the other way around and go, oh my God, everyone in the world sucks. Not even if you're not in Sydney. I just hate all of you. You all suck. So I go between the two. But that was a really long rant. We're going to wrap this up. We're going to wrap this up. Ramp this up. Ramp it up.
Yeah, Adrian, ramp it up.
No, I feel like I'm getting myself worked up and I don't even really know why. But Rach, we're at that stage now where we'll fill people in with what we've got going on for this week. So Rach, what have you got on coming on for the next week coming up?
So tomorrow I've got like a work event thing. So we're going to be doing like cork and canvas type stuff. So we'll be painting and having a great time. And then, just hanging out on Saturday and everything like that. And I'm happy to have my weekends back now that I work full-time like a normal human. And, it's great. I'm loving it.
How are your painting skills, just quickly?
I did do art class when I was 14, just saying, but I'm still terrible.
Okay, better or worse than your drawing on the phone? Or same level?
Probably better because I get to use lots more colours.
I love Rachel's drawings though. I think they're the best.
Thank you. See,
I'd buy stickers of them, like honestly.
Yes, do. I think that's a great idea. We should do that.
Yes.
Merch. Adrian, we'll make some merch for you. You can sell it.
I really want to sell the gifts that I've made of Pageant Girls expressions. I have 3 gifts so far. I sent 2 of them to Maria. I sent one of them to Maria in particular, and I think she almost died laughing at it because it was so funny. I think you can sell gifts, and I'm sure I can turn Rachel into one. I need the footage, so I can turn Rachel into one.
Yeah, just follow me around for like a day and a half, and you'll see all the weird Instagram messages. You'll see like the wardrobe malfunctions. Yeah, just.
I don't need to. I've already got enough material, Rachel. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Oh well,
I'm animated, so I think you can find something okay.
I'm also not asking you to provide me with more material. I have enough. Is it you don't need to go out of your way to provide me with more of the weird, but if you want to.
Why not?
Just send more toast videos.
I'm never going to live down this toast video. It's going to haunt me till I die.
They do have toast hats, right? They have giant toast hats, don't they?
Can you get me one?
I'm sure like it's kind of like a giant cushy hat with a giant loaf of bread. I'm sure I've seen them somewhere.
You know what?
That could be your new national costume.
I'm pretty sure you can get ones for cats as well.
Oh, no, not one for cats.
I'll honestly wear that on the podcast. If you get me one, Adrian, I will wear it.
I would expect all of us to wear it. I'm trying to find it on Google at the moment. I mean, I'll show this to you guys. There's that one there. Can you see that?
That's
Oh my
terrifying.
goodness.
Yes.
I just want to find a giant novelty toes hat. Whilst I'm doing that, which is super important, obviously, Ruby, can you fill us in with what's coming up for you over the next week?
Yeah, so I have a lot of editing to do. I mean, like, a lot. Tomorrow there is a trivia night on that I may be attending with Mum and Samantha Hodgins.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how that goes. It depends on the editing. But yeah, just a lot of photos and editing to do.
I liked your photos of Summer. They were really nice.
I know. I have a girl crush on Summer. She's just amazing.
She's so cute.
She is.
And she's such a nice girl as well. She's one of those people who's just got a really naturally lovely personality and doesn't even
And her
have to try
family's
to be
amazing.
Yes.
We need more people like Summer's family and her.
We do, definitely do.
Well, just human.
Let's start a
Just clone them. Clone them.
Yes.
We should get Summer on
Heading
here.
that
I think
way.
that'd be great.
Yeah, we should get Summer on.
Can ask Summer. I don't know if she'd be up for it, but we can certainly ask. Sorry, I'm still trying to find a giant toes hat. Whilst I do that, Maddy, do you want to fill us in with what you got coming up for the rest of the year?
The year or the week?
The year, because we don't know when the audience doesn't know when they'll see you next, so they'll see these two lovely crazies next week. But with you, they don't know. So rest of the year.
Okay. Well, I am looking forward to Miss World and how that goes. I've signed up to be a part of Miss Supranational, so I'll be taking some bits and pieces to do that and kind of working towards that. And Miss Auto de Elegance, really. But other than that, I'm kind of just working and getting some money and pretending to have a life.
Pretending?
Not have PTSD. That's true. That's true.
I saw a post about Supranational. I think that's on early next year, right? And it sounds like they're actually bringing a pageant back, which I haven't had since Supranational and Grand split apart. So it sounds like they're actually bringing a pageant back. Okay.
Yeah,
interesting.
it looks really good. But yeah, just photo shoots and work. Nothing special.
Wow. Okay, in terms of me, I will just tell you guys what interviews I have coming. I'm super excited because I finally get to interview a universe title holder. A national title holder, but that's the only system, only major system that I haven't interviewed anyone from yet. So I finally get to cross that off my list. But I've got on October, this is not the next week, but let's say the next month, I've got Stephanie Hill, who's a Miss England, but Miss World England from 2017. Gabriella Jukes, who's a current Miss World Wales. So she'll be competing against Sarah Marshke. Georgia Nickerson, who is Miss Intercontinental England. I was telling Rachel today I need to make sure I get the UK versus England versus Great Britain versus Scotland versus. I need to get it right, and I'm really sorry if I ever offend. I know how important it is, but it's unfamiliar to me. It's like, don't call an Irish person British. Yeah, I know that. I'm trying. I'm working on it. Right. Michaela Rose Fowler, who's a new Miss Global, that's coming up early November. Grace Levy, who's a Miss Universe Great Britain back from 2014, also a very successful pageant coach over in the UK. Angel Batal, who's Miss Global Canada, and Daniela Rodrigues Lavorati, who is Miss Galaxy from Portugal. So
that's the best name ever.
I know, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's just, although there was.
It sounds like a love song.
Daniela Rodrigues Lavorati is I heard another name the other week, Eden Kipax. For some reason, from a different point of view, that just sounded really epic, like Eden Kipax. It sounded like only Ruby would understand, but it sounds like a boss from a video game. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Just both Rachel and Maddy have the blank stare going on like he's talking about computer games. Our eyes will glaze over slowly whilst we die from boredom.
I'll be like sparkling, like, oh.
Exactly. It's like this podcast is completely divided into two for everything. 2 of us burn, 2 of us tan. 2 of us game, 2 of us don't. Right? It's like we've divided everything up with this 4 into 2s. It's great. Except for 2 of us being tall and 2 of us being short. That hasn't really.
No.
No.
Ruby looks sad.
I have to use a stool to reach the plates on the top in my cabinet. That's how bad. I can't even get to the top of my wardrobe.
That's a problem being a pageant girl.
I know. It's either I've got to put heels on to reach the top of my wardrobe or grab a chair. That's it.
Ruby, don't worry. There are problems associated with being tall as well. Like, honestly, one of the reasons I don't go out jogging is because a number of times I've been jogging and run into low-lying branches, and I've almost blinded myself. Thank you. There goes Rachel and her random laugh. If I ever mention Rachel's random laugh, that's what it is. There's no introduction and there's no conclusion. It's just sudden, really. That was actually quite low pitch, but it's usually high pitch, just yelling.
It's very high.
And that's her laugh. It gets higher the more she's had to drink. The more gin she has in her, the higher the pitch goes. But if you notice, it was just like ha ha ha, and then it stopped.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've blinded myself nearly so many times. And then when I've gone jogging, go, okay, this time I'm not going to get blinded. So I'm looking up, I'll trip in potholes. So, being tall is, it's a long way down from 6 foot.
I mean, if you fall, shorter people are closer to the ground. So
exactly.
It's easier for us.
Exactly. So being tall is
a tall
not
girl, it's really hard to find tall guys. Just saying.
How tall are you?
Just saying. I'm nearly 5'8", which really isn't that tall, but like everyone is just like short.
Midgets.
I don't know.
Yeah, guys are getting shorter. Like,
I feel you. I'm 5'8".
Yeah, we're the same, pretty much.
Yeah,
okay.
pretty much.
I want to wrap.
I think we're like different.
I want to wrap up on this. Does anyone know any pageant competitor who is over 6 foot?
Gabby Giho.
I was just going to say, how tall is she?
I think she might be 6'3".
Oh, good God. Okay, that is tall. Because I've had this.
She is a lovable giant.
There was a few at my last international, but I don't remember their name. I can tell you the countries.
Russia is very tall. It's like, yeah, no surprise there.
You girls know where I'm coming from, right?
Yeah, that's such a pageant thing to say.
Yeah. Okay, because I've been on this quest because I've had a couple of very tall ones recently. Rachel Everin is 5'10", Sarah Marshke is 5'11", then a couple of the UK girls are 6 foot in flats. And you look at some of them hugging, when it's a top two and one of them wins and the short one wins, and the tall one has to bend down to give her a hug, and it looks like she's picking up a small child or a sack of potatoes. And it's like, you got to understand, it's 6 foot in flats. You put 2 or 3 inch heels on, you're like a giant towering over this.
That was Gabby and myself with Galaxy when I won Galaxy, and she was like,
"That's so funny." Oh.
I now want to look up that photo.
I can send it to you.
Anyway, I'm going to thank anyone who made it to the end of this rather long rant from mainly myself, to be honest. But thank you all for watching, and thank you to Maddy for being our guest.
Yeah,
And I'm going to keep you later, guys on for a while, but I'm going to let the audience go, and we will see you next time. Wave goodbye.
Bye.
Or heart it up. Hey guys, it's Adrian again. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and remember to head over to pageantlaunch.com and join the launch team for our pageant review site. All you need to do is put in your email address. Thanks, and speak to you next time.